I've always loved the snow. It's the silence that gets me, the way it smothers the world. So all you hear is the hush of your own breath and the distant whisper of trees settling under the weight of winter. Out here, 40 miles from the nearest town, that silence is almost sacred. That's why I moved. To get away from everything. The city noise, the deadlines, the constant rush. I bought this cabin 3 years ago. A simple place, one bedroom, with stove, a view of the endless white field behind the house, and the dark forest that hems it in. In the daytime, it's beautiful, bright, and blinding, the snow glittering like crushed diamonds. But at night, when the wind rattles the eaves and the trees groan like old bones, you start to notice how thin the walls really are. 2 days ago, the first storm of the season rolled in. It's been snowing nonstop since then. I've got enough supplies to last a month if I have to: canned food, firewood, books stacked by the window like a wall against the dark. I should feel safe here, locked away from the world. But last night I heard something I can't explain. It was late. I just stoked the stove, made myself some chamomile tea, and settled into my old armchair by the front window. The snow was falling thick and heavy, flakes catching in the yellow light that spills from the porch lamp. I remember thinking how beautiful it looked until I heard the crunch. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. At first, I told myself it must be an animal. Maybe a deer, maybe a fox nosing through the drifts for food. But I've lived here long enough to know what animal tracks sound like. This was heavier. 2 feet, not 4. Someone was walking around my cabin. I sat frozen, mug clutched so tight I felt the ceramic crack. I wanted to get up, to switch off the light and peek outside, but my body refused to move. The steps circled the front porch. Crunch. Crunch. Then they stopped right beneath the window where I sat. I couldn't see anything through the reflection, just my own pale face staring back. And then, after what felt like forever, the footsteps moved again, shuffling off into the dark, swallowed by the storm. I didn't sleep at all. In the morning, I tried to convince myself it was a dream, that I dozed off in the chair, half listening to the wind, and imagined the whole thing. But when I opened the front door, I saw the prints. They were human, unmistakable. Boot prints, pressed deep into the fresh snow, circling the cabin, stopping beneath the window, then wandering off behind the house toward the tree line. I followed them for a few yards, but the drifts were too deep, and the tracks vanished into the woods. There shouldn't be anyone out here. My nearest neighbor is 10 miles down the road, and the highway's been closed since the storm hit. If someone was walking around last night, they didn't come by car. I told myself they were lost. Maybe someone's truck broke down, and they came looking for help. But then why didn't they knock? Why didn't they come to the door? Why did they just stand there, watching me from the dark? Tonight, the snow is falling again, harder than before. I've locked every door and window, stoked the stove so hot I can feel the heat on my face. I keep telling myself it was nothing, just a drifter, just the wind playing tricks. But as I write this, I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone. That somewhere out there, just beyond the porch light, someone is standing in the snow, waiting for me to turn it off. I tried to keep myself busy all morning. I split firewood behind the cabin until my arms ached and my breath turned to fog in the frigid air. I made myself a huge breakfast I barely tasted. I even called the ranger station on the old landline to ask if anyone had reported a missing person. Nobody had. The woman who answered sounded half asleep, her voice crackling through the static. She said they'd send someone to check in if the roads cleared up, but with the storm still dumping snow, it could be days before they made it out this far. That left me alone. Alone with my thoughts, alone with the whiteout that made the world outside my windows look endless, like I'd been cut loose from the world and set adrift in a sea of snow. By late afternoon, the sky turned a bruised purple. I stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand. I'm not paranoid, not usually. I've hunted deer in these woods every winter. I know how to handle a gun. But the weight of it felt different this time, heavier somehow, less reassuring. I made a slow circuit around the cabin, my boots sinking up to the ankles. I didn't see any new tracks. The ones from last night were mostly filled in, only faint impressions left behind. Still, I couldn't shake the sense that I was being watched. Every snap of a branch made my heart lurch. Every gust of wind rattling the trees sounded like footsteps just out of sight. When I came back inside, I bolted the door behind me and checked every window lock, every latch. The place felt colder than usual, a damp chill that seeped into my bones no matter how high I stacked the logs in the stove. I made myself some tea again, tried to read a book, but every creak of the floorboards pulled my eyes up from the page. I found myself glancing at the front window over and over, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass. It was after midnight when I heard it again. Crunch. Crunch. The same heavy footsteps, pacing around the porch, pausing by the window. This time I killed the lights and crept over, pressing myself to the wall so I wouldn't be seen. I peeked through the slit between the curtains, just enough to see the porch lamp swaying in the wind, the snowflakes swirling like ash. And then I saw him. A figure. Just a shape, really wrapped in what looked like a heavy coat, boots sunk deep in the drift. He was standing a few feet from the window, his face turned toward the house. I couldn't make out any features, just the dark void where his eyes should be. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't knock. Just stood there, staring. My breath fogged the glass. I backed away, heart hammering. I thought about grabbing the rifle, but what then? Shoot him? Call out? I waited, frozen, every muscle tight as a coiled spring. After what felt like forever, the figure turned. He stepped off the porch, heading toward the back of the house. I dashed to the kitchen window and caught another glimpse, just the silhouette moving through the snow, fading into the trees. I wanted to believe he was gone for good, that maybe he'd gotten the message. But when I went out this morning, I found something that turned my blood to ice. There, beneath my bedroom window, was a dead rabbit. Its fur was soaked in crimson against the snow, but there were no tracks around it, no signs of a struggle, no prints except my own. Just the rabbit. Its neck snapped clean, eyes wide open, staring at the cabin. I buried it behind the shed. Didn't know what else to do. I'm trying to convince myself it's a coincidence, that a fox got it and dropped it here by chance. But in my gut, I know that's not true. I keep feeling these eyes on me, even now as I write this. The storm's picking up again. The wind is howling through the trees like a choir of ghosts. And somewhere out there in the dark, someone is walking in circles around my cabin, waiting for the lights to go out. I didn't sleep last night. I don't even remember closing my eyes. Every time I drifted close to sleep, I'd hear it, the crunch of footsteps just beyond the wall, the soft creak of the porch boards bending under weight that shouldn't be there. At some point, I must have dozed off, because I woke up on the couch with my rifle propped against my knee, embers glowing low in the stove. Dawn had come in pale and gray. The wind had eased up, but a fresh blanket of snow had fallen, covering whatever tracks might have been left behind. I forced myself outside, boots laced tight, coat zipped up to my chin. I needed to see for myself, needed to know I wasn't losing my mind. The cold bit into my skin, dry and sharp. I scanned the yard, the woods, the roof. Nothing. No prints. No signs of anyone. I found myself staring at the place where the rabbit had been, just a patch of disturbed snow now, like nothing ever happened. I tried the ranger station again, but the line was dead. Maybe the ice had taken it out. I turned on the old shortwave radio I keep in the shed for emergencies. Static. Crackle. An occasional garbled voice that faded in and out like a ghost on the wind. I spent the afternoon boarding up the windows. Hammered old planks over the glass, even nailed a few across the front door. It felt ridiculous, like I was building a fortress against something I couldn't even name. But the thought of those dark eyes watching me through the window made my skin crawl. When the sun started to sink, I checked every lock twice, then 3 times. I lit every lamp in the house, let them burn bright against the gathering dark. I made dinner I couldn't taste, forcing each bite down while I listened for that sound, that crunch, crunch, crunch of boots in the snow. It came just after midnight. A single knock on the door. Not a frantic bang, not a polite rap. Just one, solid knock. My heart leapt into my throat. I crept to the door, rifle in hand, the cold barrel shaking against my palm. I didn't say anything. Didn't dare. Another knock. I peered through a gap in the planks covering the window. For a heartbeat, all I saw was snow swirling in the porch light. And then a face. It was pressed right up against the glass, pale and rimed with frost, eyes wide and glassy. The mouth moved, but I couldn't hear the words over the wind. He was whispering something. I stumbled back, nearly dropped the rifle. The face didn't blink, didn't move away. Just stared, lips working, breath fogging the glass. I ran to the back door, half crazed, fumbling with the lock. I don't know what I thought I'd do, a run out there? Confront him? But when I swung the door open, the wind slammed into me like a wall. The porch was empty. I circled the house, boots sinking deep, eyes darting through the dark. Nobody. No sign of footprints this time. It was like he'd vanished into the storm. Back inside, I barricaded the door with a heavy chair, dragged a dresser in front of the front window. I haven't turned off a single light. It's nearly dawn now. I'm writing this with shaking hands. I can't stop thinking about his eyes, blank, unblinking. That mouth moving like a broken record. What was he trying to say? Why can't I remember what his lips formed behind that frosted glass? I haven't heard footsteps for a few hours. Maybe he's gone. Or maybe he's still standing out there, just beyond the reach of the porch light, waiting for me to open the door again. I don't know how many hours I've been awake now. The clock above the stove ticks so loud I swear I can feel it in my bones. It's morning, I think, but the sky looks no different than it did last night. A flat wall of gray, pressing down on the forest like a lid. I tried the radio again, hoping to catch a voice, any voice. All I got was static. I even banged on the receiver, half hoping the noise would jar something loose. Nothing. My hands shake when I try to eat. There's a constant buzz in my head, like I'm half dreaming all of this. I've caught myself glancing at the boarded windows, convinced I'll see that face again. But there's nothing. Just the cold pressing in. I keep replaying the moment he knocked. The way he stood so close to the glass, not shivering, not blinking, just staring. And that whisper, the shape of his mouth moving behind the frost. Like he was saying my name, but the wind swallowed it. I spent the morning pacing the cabin, listening. Sometimes I hear it, the faint crunch of footsteps circling, then nothing. Maybe it's the old beams shifting in the cold. Maybe it's just the storm. Around noon, I found something that makes me think otherwise. I was in the bedroom, stripping the sheets from the bed. They'd grown damp from the draft, and I wanted to hang them by the stove. When I pulled them free, I saw a smear on the wall above the headboard. At first, I thought it was mold, a dark stain from a leak in the roof. But when I leaned closer, my stomach flipped. It was a handprint. 5 long fingers, smudged into the wood. Grayish, as if the print had been left by something wet and dirty. But there was no dirt anywhere else. Just that one, perfect handprint. Right above where I'd been sleeping. I scrubbed at it with soap and water, but it wouldn't come off. The wood seems darker now, like it soaked it in. I can't look at it without feeling like there's someone right behind me, their cold hand hovering inches from my skin. I can't stay here tonight. I can't. I dug out my old snowmobile from the shed. It's half buried under drifts, the engine probably frozen. But if I can get it running, I can make it to the ranger station, or at least the old service road, where maybe someone will find me. I packed a bag, some food, water, a flashlight, extra ammo for the rifle. I dressed in layers until I could barely move. I forced the shed doors open and tried the ignition. Nothing. I cursed, kicked the side of the sled until my foot went numb. I siphoned some gas, checked the spark plug, all things I barely remember how to do. Finally, on the 5th try, the engine sputtered to life, coughing smoke into the snow. I nearly laughed from relief until I heard it. A voice. Faint. A man's voice, carried on the wind like a song you can't quite place. I turned, scanning the trees behind the shed. There he was, standing at the edge of the clearing, closer than he'd ever come in daylight. The same heavy coat, the same dark shape of him against the endless white. He didn't move, didn't flinch when I raised the rifle. I should have fired, should have done something. But my finger wouldn't pull the trigger. The engine sputtered again, pulling my eyes away for a split second. When I looked back, he was gone. No footprints. No broken branches. Just the hush of the forest and the soft hiss of snow falling. I dragged the sled around to the front porch, ready to leave at a moment's notice. But now, as the sun sinks behind the trees, I'm hesitating. It's not fear, not exactly. It's this feeling that if I go out there at night, I'll never make it to the road. That he wants me to leave the safety of these thin walls. The stove crackles, throwing shadows across the boarded windows. I keep the rifle by my side. I haven't heard footsteps yet tonight, but it's early. Part of me wants to believe that if I survive until morning, the snowmobile will get me out, that the storm will clear, and I'll find help. But another part of me wonders if help will even matter, if he's already inside, waiting for me to turn around. I don't remember falling asleep. I must have dozed off in the armchair by the stove, the rifle balanced across my knees, the fire burning down to coals. When I woke, the cabin was dark, every lamp I'd left on it gone out. The stove was cold. I felt the chill immediately, not the usual draft through the boards, but a deep, bone-deep cold that seemed to radiate from every wall. I stood, joints stiff, breath fogging in the blackness. My eyes darted to the windows, or what was left of them. The boards I'd nailed up were gone, torn away. The glass behind them was frosted over, but I could see shapes shifting shadows, like someone walking past each window in slow circles. I stumbled to the kitchen, fumbling for the matches. The box slipped from my shaking hands, scattering sticks across the floor. I struck one, the tiny flame sputtering to life. In that flickering glow, I saw footprints. Not outside, inside. Wet prints, boot-shaped, leading from the front door to the center of the room, then branching off down the hallway toward the bedroom. I forced my feet to follow. The door to the bedroom hung half open, swinging gently like someone had just passed through. I nudged it wider with the rifle barrel. The handprint above the bed was gone. In its place, the entire wall seemed darker, like the wood had rotted overnight. As I stepped inside, the floorboards groaned under me, and I realized I could hear breathing. Not my own. Something slow and ragged, coming from the far corner. I swung the match toward it. The flame guttered, casting just enough light to see him. He was crouched in the corner, knees drawn to his chest, head resting on the wall like a child hiding from monsters. His coat hung off him in tatters, the fabric crusted with frost and something darker. His boots were the same ones that left prints in the snow. I could see the slush pooling around them, seeping into the floor. I should have run. Should have raised the rifle and fired. But I stood frozen, my match burning down to my fingertips. The pain jolted me just enough to drop it. The darkness swallowed him whole. Then he spoke. A voice like wine through dead trees, soft, cracking, familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. He whispered my name, over and over, like a lullaby. I backed away, tripping over the threshold, the rifle clattering to the floor. The whispering grew louder, chasing me down the hallway as I stumbled toward the front door. My hand fumbled for the knob, cold metal slick under my palm. I yanked it open and staggered out onto the porch. The snowmobile sat there, half buried again, like it had been waiting all night. The keys dangled from the ignition, swaying in the wind. Behind me, the cabin groaned. The walls shivered, the roof creaked under an invisible weight. I risked one glance back. Through the front window, I saw him standing, no longer crouched, but tall, impossibly tall, his face pressed to the glass. The frost melted where his skin touched it, leaving a clear patch where our eyes met. It was my face, staring back at me, pale, hollow-eyed, lips moving in a perfect echo of my name. I didn't wait to see what it wanted. I threw myself onto the snowmobile, thumbed the starter, the engine sputtered, coughed, roared to life. I gunned it down the trail, the headlights cutting a narrow tunnel through the trees. I don't know how long I rode. The storm closed in around me, the wind howling so loud I couldn't hear the engine anymore. Branches clawed at my coat, frost gathered on my eyelashes. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see him chasing me through the drifts. At some point, the machine died. The gas gauge read empty, but I swear I'd filled it. I ditched it and started walking, boots sinking deep, breath coming in ragged gasps. The forest looked the same in every direction. Black trees, white snow, endless dark. Hours passed, or minutes, or days. The sky never changed. I don't remember falling, but I woke up half buried in a drift, my body so cold I couldn't feel my fingers. Somewhere in the distance, I heard it again, footsteps crunching toward me, slow and steady. A figure took shape through the snow, tall and thin, wrapped in a ragged coat. My coat, my boots, my face. He crouched beside me, head tilted, like he was studying an animal caught in a trap. His mouth moved. I forced myself to listen. This time, I heard the words, "Go home." A hand, my hand, reached out and touched my cheek. Cold burned through my skin, down into my bones, into my mind. The forest spun around me, shadows bending, snow swirling into a blinding white. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the cabin. Sitting by the stove, fire roaring, lights blazing. The walls intact. No footprints on the floor. No broken boards. Outside, the storm had stopped. The snow lay pristine and untouched. Not a single print. And yet, when I listen, really listen, I can still hear them. Footsteps in the snow. Pacing, circling, waiting. I live alone. But I'm never alone.